Hello and welcome to exfidebibles. My name is Ethan. So today I'm going to be walking through the process of how I go about speckling page edges. This is something that there aren't very many videos on YouTube about how to do this. There are some videos on how to do this on, non-Bible bookbinding projects, but those videos are often kind of hard to find. And I figured out the process, through doing research and some trial and error. And I wanted to share that with everyone here. Maybe you're curious about the process. Maybe you are a rebinder who is trying to get into speckling and trying to figure out how to do that. So this video is for you, regardless of what camp you're in. So I've got my camera here kind of high, and I'm going to explain a little bit about page edge speckling. So page edge speckling is a really interesting trend, and kind of it's kind of its own thing within bookbinding. So, before there were gold gilt page edges, there was speckling. So you would essentially just like flick paint or dye onto the edge of pages. And really the reason why you would do that, and really the reason why you gild page edges as well, is because as a book ages and as your book is, on a shelf, the ends of the pages, the edge of the pages is what starts to yellow over time. So, gilding and speckling was done in order to make the aging book more aesthetically pleasing. So yeah, so I'm actually not going to be speckling a Bible. I'm going to be speckling this journal. I don't have a Bible that's ready to be speckled currently, so this will be a good stand-in. This will be it'll be the exact same process as if you were speckling a Bible, so don't worry about that. So the one thing that you need to do before you speckle is you need to dye your page edges, and I already have a video on how to do that. So definitely watch that video for how to do that process. And I have already dyed, I've dyed the page edges of this journal. This is Ranger T Rose. So we're going to be speckling this here. So you're going to need a number of supplies in order to do this, and I'll go ahead and show those here. So I kind of have this, I have a number of kind of like tackle boxes or like organizers for all of my rebinding stuff. I have one for all of my stamping supplies. I have one for all my stitching, and this is my my box for all my speckling supplies. So we'll go ahead and walk through some stuff here. You don't need to buy, this whole setup. You can just use the essentials. And there's a few essentials that you'll need. So you'll need some kind of container in order to mix your paint. You'll obviously need some paint. This is just normal acrylic craft paint. This stuff is really, really cheap. I got these for, I think I got these for about $1 for, a 2 fluid ounce bottle. I have a number of colors here. I like Sunbeam. This color Sunbeam by Apple Barrel, because it really looks like gold on the on page edges. I have black, a brown, or like an espresso, and then a blue. So you'll need some containers, some airtight containers to mix your paint. You'll obviously need some acrylic paint, and you'll need at least one paintbrush. And I use this. This is an all. I use this to help me with my technique on how I speckle. So I'll get into that in a moment. So I just bought a multi-pack of. I just bought a multi-pack of paintbrushes from Amazon, but I found that paintbrushes that are kind of this format, so okay, back up a little bit. It really depends on what type of speckling aesthetic you want. I really like the R.L. Allen style of speckling. I like their color combinations that they do, and I like the look of that style of speckling. It really depends on what you want to do. So The type of speckling that I like, again, the R.L. Allen style, is the speckling technique that they use. They use like the speckle spots on the edge of the pages are really round, not like diagonal like stripes, that type of thing. They're really round. So that's the style that I like. So that'll be the style that I'm demonstrating here. And I found that the easiest way to do that is with a long, kind of thin-ish paintbrush. So I have one speckle example here. And this will be kind of what I'll be demonstrating on how to recreate. So the colors will be a little bit different because I used red geranium dye on this Bible, but I'll be doing a really similar type of speckle pattern. So I did obviously the dye first, and then I did the black speckle, and then I did the gold speckle on top. So I'll be explaining how I did that. So let's get started here. So you'll obviously need a book press, which if you're rebinding Bibles, you probably already have one. But I like this one for speckling because it's really kind of low profile and close to my desk. So this is one of my favorite types of journals. This is by a small company, a Japanese stationery company called Nanami Paper, and they do fountain pen friendly journals and notebooks. This is the B6 slim size with the grid paper. Really, really nice notebooks. Anyway, so the first thing you want to do is put your book in your book press. So here we go, nice and flush. It doesn't need to be flush in order for this to work well, but this is gonna. So your book block doesn't have to be like flush necessarily in this, but I think it might help. Definitely gonna want some paper towels on hand. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, this is the color Tea Rose, and we're going to be starting. I want to do brown. I want to do brown and gold on this one. So actually, I haven't opened this one yet. So the trick with getting these, getting the paint to speckle is, again, you use like normal acrylic paint that you can get on Amazon or at a craft store or what have you. The trick with this, in order for the paint not to be too thick, is that you want it to be diluted with water. And I find that just a 1-to-1 ratio of water to paint is a good ratio for speckling. All right, so. Now for some water. So I just eyeballed it. You don't need to be, this is kind of an art, so you don't need to be like super scientific about it. I just eyeballed it. So the plan for this one is I want to do brown on the bottom and gold on the top. All right, make sure we're in frame here. All right, so there's a couple things to be aware of when you do this. So the first thing is you want to do one color at a time, because if you do two colors at once, you might have some of the speckles kind of like bleeding into each other, which is not what you want. So you want to do one color at a time, and before you switch colors, you want to make sure that your speckling is completely dry. And obviously this is going to be wet paint, so you're going to want to be very cautious about touching your edges before it dries. But there's kind of another thing to be aware of is that you don't want your speckling to fully dry when your book is in your book press or when your book is closed. There's kind of a sweet spot with this. You want to speckle your edges, wait a little bit, maybe 30 seconds to a minute for the paint to begin to dry, but not fully dry. And then you want to take your book out of your press and fan out the pages to make sure that your pages aren't permanently stuck together. And I'll show you that here, obviously. So I got my book in my book press real tight. So we're gonna go ahead and get started here. So the technique that I found works the best for getting those really nice Allen-style round speckles is that you want to take something like an awl, or you could use a pencil or maybe one of your leather tooling tools. What you want to do is take a tool like this, and then with paint on your brush, kind of bend it like this, and then flick your brush over your project. And it's really that easy. Actually want to grab this one instead. And the general rule of thumb is with this, the more paint that you have on your brush, the bigger your speckle spots are going to be. And the smaller amount of paint that you have, the smaller your speckles are going to be. And you want probably less paint than you probably think. When I was doing that Bible that I showed a minute ago, I was really just dabbing my brush in the excess paint in the lid. I wasn't dunking it to get those speckles. So all right, we can go ahead and get started. And if you want to practice this, a good way to do that is by just flicking your brush over a piece of paper or a piece of paper towel, and then you can kind of see what your spots look like by doing that. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, I think that looks pretty great for my for my base color here. So the technique that I like doing as far as the color combinations go, I like doing a two-color speckle. I think it looks kind of simple but also pretty at the same time. And I'm letting my paint dry here for a moment as I talk. I want there not to be like really big bubbles or drops of paint on my pages. I kind of want it maybe 3/4 of the way dry. But going back to my technique, I really like doing my darker of the two colors first, and then doing my gold on top. I really just like the look of that. So get a close up here of my brown. Looks pretty good. And when you you obviously want to do one color on all three of the sides, and then you want to make sure your flicking tool, we can call it, your flicking tool is clean as well as your brush. Looks pretty great. All right, so now I'm going to fan out my pages. Kind of make sure they got nice and unstuck. Perfect. Yeah, I really like how the tea rose and the brown go together. So now you just flip your book over and do the other side. Now when you're situating your book in here like this, you want to be really aware of like not putting your finger down here and touching the still partially wet side of your book. But I like kind of putting my press here, letting the book rest on my work surface, and then kind of tightening these down. So if you were to do this on a Bible with gilding, you would actually need to go through the process of sanding off all of your gilding, because you wouldn't really be able to see your speckling. You wouldn't really be able to see your speckling if there's gilding. And I have done that before. It's pretty straightforward. All you have to do is, put your book in the book press with a little, maybe 1/16 of an inch sticking out, and then just sanding it down. You obviously start at a low grit and then work your way up. I've done that before, and I'm probably not going to do a video on that just because it's kind of boring and time consuming. And it was pretty easy for me to figure out. So, all right, let's see here. Let's go. So as far as consistency goes, there's a few really big spots here. And as a rule, like I generally want to make the speckling job very consistent. So if there's a few big spots here, I want to be putting some bigger spots over here to make it look more consistent. All right, that looks great. So obviously need to fan my pages out again. So when you do this, when you start doing the sides, you just need to make sure if you go to fan fan your pages with the side that you already speckled on. You want to make very sure that it is already fully dry. Cool. I think that looks awesome. It's going to look even better with the gold. So last side of brown here. So obviously if you were doing this on a Bible, you would want to do this without the cover on it. And also you don't want your headbands on it either. You don't want to get paint on your headbands. So, before ribbons too, like you don't want, I guess you could figure out a way to cover your ribbons, but you generally don't want to do this with ribbons or headbands on the book. So I've also experimented with using like shimmer or metallic paint, but I haven't found a type that works very well. I got some of this a while back, Deco Art metallic paint, and I thought it would look really nice having kind of a metallic sheen to it, but the metallic particulates that are in this paint, they're not fine enough to consistently stick to the pages, and the metallic little particulates end up brushing off really, really soon after doing the speckling job. So you might not be able to see from the top-down angle, but my tool here is pretty close to the book block. I would say about 4 to 5 inches, 4 to 5 inches above the book block. The higher that you are above, the bigger spread of the paint that you're going to get, and you end up just going to be wasting paint and wasting your time. So I do about 4 inches above the book block. I found that to be pretty consistently what I want. All right, there we go. Now on to the gold. That's actually my black paint. I was looking for my water. Looks pretty good so far. Just started raining. There's something, I don't know what the right word is, maybe romantic about working on books, rebinding books, working on speckling while it's raining outside. So, all right. This is where you get kind of your final look. So, let's see. See, this is kind of what I was trying to avoid earlier. So you can see here I didn't do my technique good enough, and it kind of left a streak across. That's kind of what I want to try to avoid. And I think it was because I had either too much paint on my brush, or I was doing an improper kind of flicking angle. Looks pretty great. All right, now I'm going to do my other two edges and then show you at the end what it looks like. All right, welcome back. I have finished the other edges. I think they look pretty great. So again, you can practice this on journals, Bibles. You could practice on, a cheap paperback book, really anything. So definitely get out there and try it. It's pretty fun, and it gives you a really unique look. So again, a couple notes on how I do this. I obviously dye the page edges first with my desired color, obviously keeping in mind, what type of speckling you would want to do. If this is tea rose and I wanted to do brown and gold, but if you were, if you're doing lime green page edges, you would want to make sure that you kept that in mind when you go to do your speckling. You kind of want everything together to look kind of cohesive. At least that's what I like. So again, this is tea rose. I did like a dark brown and then a gold. So yeah. So again, this is a little journal from Nanami Paper. I recommend their company a lot. They make really, really premium Smithsonian little journal inserts here, and I recently, I made my own little cover here of Badalassi Carlo waxy cowhide. So yeah, so this will be a cool little aesthetic addition to my daily journaling, Bible journaling, note-taking, and such. So again, thank you for watching. This is Ethan from exfidebibles.
Bibles.